Well, this being big time radio, we're going to sign in 5 minutes late on Viewpoint, but that's all right. We do it 20 minutes after we. Good morning. Viewpoint, program of personalities. Boy, we got a personality this morning.
Yes.
Perspectives. We got perspective today. We'll leave the politicians out later. By the way, we will. Speaking of politicians, I have been asked by the Democratic county chairman to have a Democratic candidate on, and she hasn't got back to me yet. I'm sure she will. And in that light, being fair and unbalanced as we are up here, we will have the gubernatorial candidate on at some point in time. I was talking with Bruce Rauner the other day, and Mr. Bender suggested to him that he might want to get on our radio program. And I said, absolutely, Bruce. Tell us what Wednesday we can have you. So that's in the offing. We will obviously announce that well in advance, but we'll catch Mr. Rauner when he has some time. Hopefully do it live. We'll see what works out best with his schedule. We have the Kathy O'Malley of Logan County to my right here, and Mrs. Busby, WGN's greatest personality.
That one went over my head.
I didn't know Kathy O'Malley. I figured she was a nice Swedish girl from someplace.
Well, she was one of a team that they had in WGN, and then WGN went so far south with their program and everything, they just messed up everything. And Kathy and Judy Markey were big-time personalities on WGN, and they got cashiered, and they were brought back on by popular demand on Saturday morning. So that's the reason you're always so busy dusting and cleaning in the morning. You don't have time for that.
Well, there is that. That's one thing about being female and the housefrau and retired. Your job really is never over. There's always supper. There's always dust. There's always dirty clothes. So, I mean, you still have a role,
And Murphy's caretaker, don't forget that. That's important.
Well, Murphy and I are having a spat right now.
All right. We want to get right into the subject matter this morning, but I'm constrained that I must make a comment about this tragedy down here in Ferguson, Missouri. Doesn't it seem strange that most of the folks down there who have been arrested, and there were some 78 as the last count, I'm sure there's more than that last night, but a preponderance of those who are arrested come from God knows where. They're not even close to Ferguson's residence. Does that speak to something?
Yeah, there are professional rabble-rousers. I don't know how the pay is in that line of work, but
well, if you're
you get
an
your name in the
Abernathy,
news and you get your butt in jail, I guess that's something.
Well, in any event, I just thought that was, well, anyway.
Can I say something too?
Why not?
Okay.
He's 50% owner of the show, Andi.
I would just like to thank all the people that came and the city of Lincoln for their recognition of Buzz's service last Monday evening. And of course, Sarah was there too, Nathan Turner's widow, and it was a very nice thing, and I am grateful.
Yes, Judith K. That was, and a nice crowd attended that, and I thought it was very appropriate. Heaven knows that's the biggest and the heaviest paperweight I've ever seen. The one that you took home.
Wasn't that nice?
Yes, well, very nice one. Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up. So that would be our kudo. It would be kudo to the mayor and the city council for causing that park to be so named, the Busby Turner Memorial Park. That's very nice. And it was, it's been nicely landscaped and really.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, that block really shaped up. Why don't you introduce our nice guest? We brought her all the way here from Lincoln. It's a long trip. She packed her lunch.
Clear down the road.
Yeah. We'll get her.
Poor Andi Hake, she probably doesn't get lunch right now.
No.
Andi, of course, is the director of the Greater Lincoln Area Chamber of Commerce. And it's time, once again, for the 41st. Well, this is the first time it's the 41st, by the way. But it is going to be.
Wait a minute. Let's go that again. first time it's the 41st. Yeah. Okay, I got it now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just take notes here.
Okay.
It's the 41st Annual Art Fair and Balloon Festival. And it's always something that people look forward to. It's a big time, and I'm sure that you and your committee and your blessed volunteers, I will forever my whole life bless the volunteers, by the by.
Amen.
And that group must all feel like Mary's little lamb just dragging their tails behind them, huh?
Yes.
In a word.
In one word.
We have a great leader this year. Nicole Cox is our event coordinator for the event this year, and although she's never actually seen it on this side and has seen it from a distance, she's done an outstanding job of leading all of us and guiding us through this. And it's the crazy is a little calmer this year, if you will. It's not as crazy as it has been in the past, or I'm just completely immune to it.
Or catatonic.
Maybe that. This is number 7 for me.
Yeah, but now Bill says you brought your lunch. Well, that's just lucky, because otherwise you probably wouldn't get one, would you?
Well, we actually hire somebody, the wonderful Janet Dom, to cook for us this week. Otherwise, we wouldn't get lunch.
She's very special. But that was really a brainstorm you had there. Feeding the people so they didn't get pale and wan.
I noticed early on that either during the festival, once it finally got here, or right after, employees were getting sick, myself included. And I started thinking about what we can do to make sure that doesn't happen. And one of those was making sure everybody eats. Deb Rohr trained me. She did this for a couple years, and mentioned that it's just no time to eat. So I made sure I make everybody stop what they're doing. Well, and as soon as she brings the food in the door, the whole building smells wonderful. So everybody's like, "Oh, okay, time to eat."
Well, and you know that's important. Jim, you'll hearken back to the days when we used to spend the fair at the fair, when we were with WPRC, and especially the young kids who would avail themselves of fair food for several days would get the Logan County Fair revenge by the end of it. So to have a nourishing lunch, I'm sure it pays you in the end.
Oh, and it's wonderful. It's like yesterday we had hot chicken and noodles and fresh garden tomatoes with apple crisp and something else. I can't remember.
And who's doing this for them?
Janet Dom. She's just only a lovely,
nice.
Lovely, wonderful person. Yeah. And I can hear the people in the audience salivating as you relay your menu.
Yeah, it was delicious. And every day it's a surprise. We never know what we're getting. It was
very nice.
Beef stew type thing on Monday, and it was wonderful. So
what you so aptly called comfort food.
Comfort food, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, now here it is, and it's going to start, and it's the 41st, and it starts on the 22nd. And actually, that's my great-grandson's first birthday, Bill. I just want to share that with you, okay?
Oh, that kid.
Well, it's going to be a great day indeed, then.
Yeah, he's pretty sweet. I'm kind of prejudiced there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're entitled to that, too, by golly.
He's kind of cute. Well, at any rate,
really is.
It starts the 22nd, and here it is, and all your work is now right there in front of God and everybody.
Right. The event itself for all of our guests that come into our community and our local folks that attend starts the 22nd. However, it really kicks off tonight for us. We celebrate and honor our volunteers tonight with our volunteer party, and that serves a couple purposes. Like I said, we honor our volunteers and we recognize them and their service, but we also give them information, updates on things that have changed. We talk about their roles. Very often we have brand new volunteers that come in, so we give them what we call their directives or job description, and they get to meet their coordinator, and we feed them and just kind of have fun and listen to music and just have a really nice time before it all starts. And then we have an honorary ribbon cut on Thursday night at 5:30 out at the airport. And we do that. We bring our local pilots and some of the pilots that come in early. And if the weather is good, we have a small flight, and we get as many media. That's our main goal, is to get the media up so they can get the experience and help tell our story and invite people to come. And then some local people that have done some really outstanding things for us, like some of our coordinators, we try and get up and in the balloons that have never flown. If I have staff that have never flown, I try and get them up Thursday night. And then Friday it kicks off.
I sit here, and if I may have a quick aside, not subject to the conversation of the morning. I noted, to talk about volunteers, I noted that Bill Post has been named one of the citizens, and that was just a quick aside. Bill Post is a fine gentleman, and I was just very happy to see that recognition. Yeah. Now let's seg back right into the...
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, that was a fine gentleman.
Appropriate.
How many exhibitors do we have at the actual art at the Latham Park?
The Latham Park, which holds our fine art fair, we will have 50 artists this year. And that folks that are really familiar with our art fair will recognize that is down about 30 artists from what we had about 3 years ago.
Oh, that's quite a few.
It is, unfortunately. It's a trend that we've been seeing, not just here at our local event, but we see it at all over. Art fairs are seeing this.
What do the other coordinators of art fairs have to say about this? Anybody got a take on what the deal is?
There's a couple things. Our artists that have been coming for years, because this is the 41st year for the artists have been coming here for 41 years. The balloon part is 26, or was added 26 years ago. They're getting older, and some of them have passed away, and some of them don't do it anymore. And the younger folks have this really great thing called the internet. And they have learned through sites like Etsy that they can sell their art less time and cheaper. So they don't have to travel and give up an entire week or weekend. They can do it from their home, and they can, still have whatever else they've got going on.
That makes perfect sense on one level, Andi. However, I'm not the internet junkie that my sidekick here is. Bless his heart. But it seems to me that to see something in real life is so different from seeing it on a screen. I don't care whether it's a deer, a doe and her fawn, or a piece of art. To be able to look at it is so much different.
Well, I agree. I'm a touch, feel, want to see it. That's how.
Maybe it's a female trait.
Yeah, if I'm going to if I'm going to invest money in art, I want to feel it, smell it, be right up close with it. I want to understand. I want to talk to the artist. Not everybody is that way. The other thing is our artists aren't seeing a return on their investment when they come to these art fairs. Yeah. The generations of art connoisseurs, people that invest money into it, and I'm talking several $1,000s, aren't there. That's right. Because, and I don't mean this negatively, but we've kind of diluted our market because we not only have the Fine Art Fair, which used to be the central focus of this event, we also have the hot air balloon portion, we have live music, we have a barbecue competition that's expanding and growing, which brings in an entirely different crowd, and then we have a craft fair and flea market, and that's a much lower price point, and that's a much different target market. So we have a very diverse group of people that come to our community for one weekend, and not all of them are focused on art. And there's so much to do that even if you may not get a chance to go to the art fair because you're committed, or your kids want to go to the carnival out at the airport, or things like that. So that leads to a decision that we made. If you guys don't mind, if we talk about 2015 for a minute.
Well, I think it's going to come whether we talk about it. It's a rumor, I heard.
It is coming.
We're talking about the bottom line, commercialism.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, we have a bottom line here, and it's called sponsors, commercialism.
Yeah.
So we'll take a quick break for our sponsors. Then we're going to come back, and I want to ask you about Bob Holloway.
Okay.
Right back live in the studios here. The program is Viewpoint. Mrs. Busby and the old fellow have as our guest this morning Andi Hake, our go-to lady for the Lincoln Developmental Chamber of Commerce. Before we took a break, I started to ask a question about our old friend Bob Holloway, venerable artist, unusual art form, comes from over in Kansas City, I believe, or close to Missouri. Andi, you said that he's been coming since we started. That'd be 40,
Yeah.
This would be his 41st year.
That's correct.
Well, he came in his 40s then, because he's getting there where I am. He must be knocking close to the age of 90.
Yeah, I don't ask. My grandma told me that was rude.
Well, we had more than enough pieces of artwork from Bob, so but now I always make it a point to go over there and say hi to him and spend a couple of minutes with him.
Well,
he's a very unusual man.
Yeah, a couple years ago when we started doing the parade, the mayor approached us about having honoring one person throughout the festival, and we agreed that that first year it should be Bob Holloway. So it was Bob Holloway Day in Lincoln, and we did a ribbon cut, and he was our grand marshal for our parade, and it was exciting. So he kicked that all off, and we've had a number of other people, but last year we had the Irelands, Jim and Nancy Ireland, who have been a part of the festival forever. And this year we get to honor Dominic Dalpaz, the executive director of the Oasis Senior Center. And I think very, very appropriate this year, given what the Oasis has been through.
And Tom Dalpaz has been through.
Yes, and what they've accomplished is no short of a miracle. You know, this time last year, they had just gone through a fire that destroyed their facility downtown, and the way they responded under his leadership and was just incredible, and they rallied, and they had a great event. And they, if you don't know, they host the craft fair and flea market in Scully Park. They run all of that. And so they've renovated a building that was sitting vacant for us on our west side, and it's phenomenal. It looks wonderful, and they're serving a large part of our population that needs activities and services, and he's just got a great group of volunteers, so we're happy to honor Dom this year for the parade.
Yeah, most appropriate. I want to ask you something's going on that I don't know. The Elks Veterans Committee, they're an important committee by the by, hosting a bags tournament. Now, tell us what a bags tournament is. That's going to be at the airport.
On Saturday.
Yes, on Saturday. So tell us a little bit about the Art and Balloon Festival bags tournament.
Yeah, and some people call it cornhole contest or something like that. It sounds odd to me, so I like bags tournament. They're the boards with the bing bags.
Yes.
And it's a two-man team, and it's really
with bags.
Bowling with bags. You got to get it in a little hole.
Right. Buzz made a couple of those games in the years gone by, and we'd play bean bags, and it's a ton of fun.
It is.
You do that up the lake.
It is a great time.
Exactly.
And it's very, very popular at the Logan County Fair. I mean, they have, well, I don't know how many they had this year, but I know last year they had over 50 teams at the fair. We didn't do it last year. We couldn't get somebody to organize it for us, so George Lacefield with the Elks Veterans Committee is going to run it for us this year. And teams that sign up in advance, each person will get a wristband to get them into the festival for free for the whole weekend, so they don't have to worry about paying for that. And then each player will get a free drink when they sign up. They'll get entered into a drawing for a hot air balloon ride on Saturday nights. And actually, anybody that comes out to the beer garden at the airport between 1 and 4 on Saturday, they can be entered in to win that free balloon ride. We sponsor a balloon, Randy Conklin. Unfortunately, the chamber staff's a little busy, so we can't take advantage of those rides, so we want to give it away to somebody. So if those that come out between 1 and 4 can enter a drawing, must be present to win, because you will take that ride that night. And then the bags tournament.
But if you're not there, it's so hard to get in the balloon.
Right, it would be a little challenging.
This bag tournament, that's all it is. You usually throw a bunch of bean bags at holes on a piece of plywood.
Oh, but people love it and very
Yeah.
serious about it.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
gosh,
are, really.
Very-
I know some people who really ought to enter that.
And,
Yeah, well, tell 'em.
It says here that you can sign up online, but you have to do it as a team, apparently. No individual registration will be accepted, so we have to, well, maybe you and I could form a team with Andi, Judith, and Jim, be the four of us.
I think you'd be just sick. I was always the last one chosen for any athletic endeavor. The last.
And I'll
I
be a
can't
little
walk and
busy.
chew gum.
I'll be a little absent. so
Yeah, there you go.
I wouldn't be a great
Okay.
teammate, but Bill, I think
Registration will be accepted until tomorrow. That's the
pre-registration.
21st.
Yeah, pre-registration will be, and then those that don't sign up ahead of time can sign up at noon on Saturday. They can come out to the airport.
Just before the.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that'd be another fun little activity, little
Yeah,
side
that'll be
activity.
great. Yeah.
With relationship to the art festival, I thought they found a good home when they finally settled on Latham Park. They made a really nice venue for that. The way you can weigh it out with the various artists and kind of a spoke format, so to speak. And in that, we have some local artists who always appear. My friend Dave Bodie, I call him Baudet now since he's an artist, Mr. Baudet. And he'll spend the year working on little knickknacks and trinkets that.
Oh, but they're cute.
Yes, and besides being a very commercial welder, he's a little arty.
Yeah.
And works out. And we have other folks who have unusual art forms.
Yeah, we have actually this year. Jason Huffman is a teacher at Lincoln Community High School.
We just had him last week.
Yeah, well, they're the high. We've not done this before. We're going to try it with this group, and hopefully it works out real well. They're going to have a booth, and they're going to sell students' work. Students that have created art throughout the year, they're going to sell it and feature it. And
I think that's great. He mentioned that last week here on Viewpoint, and I think that's such a good idea.
Yeah.
It's something, a whole different aspect for those kids, and it's fun, I think, for the community to be able to see one of the positive things that they're doing at Lincoln Community High School.
Well, and it touches on something that, so artists are really creative people, and I admire them because I'm not, and I don't get that opportunity in my job. However, not all artists are good business people. And I've heard this from artists themselves that, they like to create art, but they're not good at marketing themselves and running businesses. So if we can get these students involved early and seeing the commerce side of what they do and that they could actually have a viable business doing something that they love, just getting a hint of it this weekend, maybe we can, build on that. And we can build a nice art community. I think that'd be wonderful if we had that foundation set.
This is just really a huge undertaking to get this thing all organized and ready to go. What has been the biggest stumbling block or impediment to making this thing work? That's a question right off the wall for you.
Yeah, there's the biggest, because there's a number.
Among many, yes.
Some days I feel like everything's against us.
Uh-huh.
It's because it's grown so much, even in the this will be year 7, but the 6 years that I've done it, it's grown. And I mean, we went from 300 volunteers my first year to just our area is almost 600, and that doesn't include the barbecue, the art of wine, or the craft fair.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we are a small community, and to pull in that many volunteers, it's challenging. And right now we've got some key areas that don't have enough volunteers. For example, we hear all the time, we need a balloon downtown, we need a balloon. So we have a tethered balloon or a pilot that's willing to do tethered, which means give rides and it stays connected to the ground, but it goes up downtown. But we need volunteers to run that because we have to be out at the airport. We don't have anybody signed up to do that. So if we want to offer this, but we need help doing that. So that's, I would say, the biggest challenge, because we're a very small office. I have 2 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. running this massive event. And that's, I would say, the biggest challenge is getting enough help.
That calls for two big topics of conversation, both the volunteering business and the business of having too many events at the same time, as far as your office is concerned.
Right.
So let's take them in or out of order.
Yeah, let's pull the tail off the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we issued a press release. You know, some would argue it was probably the worst time right before the festival to do it, but we need to promote during the festival what's going to happen in 2015. But we didn't want our community to be caught off guard before, you know, the festival. So we issued a press release announcing that we're going to expand the Lincoln Art and Balloon Festival into many components starting in 2015. And I think the reaction of our community just shows how treasured this event is in our community. People are very passionate about it, and there's nobody in the middle. I would say there's nobody right now that's indifferent on this. You either feel very good about it or very bad about it. So good. I think that's a great thing, because one thing that I struggle with is apathy a lot in what we do and getting people engaged in everything that we do. So the fact that I think we've got people excited on either side. And the reason we've done this, I've heard a lot of people, it's because we are infighting and nobody can get along. That's absolutely not true. If we didn't get along, we couldn't put this event on. Yeah. And by we, I mean every single component that goes into it. It is all about resources. And it is all about getting to the root of why the Chamber of Commerce decided to do this, which is to bring commerce to our community, to bring outside money being spent in our community. And it's great that our local people come and spend money at this event. It's wonderful. But that money's here, and it's local money. To survive and be great, we need to pull people in from outside. And so we decided with tourism, we've been meeting with tourism, and this is not an Andi Hake decision. This is there are probably 20 people around the table at any given time talking about this for over a year and making it work. To bring people to Lincoln more often, more than one time a year. So right now we have this great event, but it's kind of all our eggs in one basket, if you will. And if it rains the entire weekend, oh boy, are we in trouble. And I don't mean just we, the Chamber, but all the nonprofits that use this event as fundraisers. They're going to hurt. Everybody's going to hurt. So that's a big reason why we did it, for the security and financial viability of each component, and for the nonprofits that rely on it. We needed to ensure that it can sustain and grow, and that the growing part is the second part. We're kind of we're getting landlocked around our square, and barbecue is so popular and growing so much. They hit their max this year. They're full, and we're so excited about that. But we want them at 54 teams, that's full. We want them to be able to expand beyond, and you know, if we dare 75 teams, they're probably telling me to shut up right now, but I mean, how awesome would that be to have that many people come to our community? And then we can focus on that and pair that with events that make sense for barbecue. Our artists want barbecue and growing barbecue and having blues bands and a beer tasting and beer tent and all that stuff doesn't really enhance the fine art fair.
No,
so we decided to keep everything downtown the same. So what we now know is the Art of Wine and Brew, the barbecue event, the car cruise, and the craft fair flea market. They're going to stay together, and we're going to enhance that and grow that. But the art fair we're going to pull out, and we're going to do that at a different time, and we're going to pair that with the Art of Wine and craft brew tasting. So we're going to kind of duplicate that event twice in a year. It won't look exactly the same. And we're looking at different options, but one of the things is moving the artists around the square and having an artist tent and a wine tasting tent and a craft brew tasting tent, and having the whole square blocked off so you can have a glass of wine and shop for art. And so 50 artists around the square, it's full, but 50 artists in that giant park isn't. Or the other option is move everything into the park and have a big event in the park, have jazz music, make it more of an art and jazz festival type thing. We're wanting to bring in like homegrown organic food caterers, and so we can have very specific target markets, so we can bring people in that want to spend that kind of money on fine art, and that way the artists are seeing the return on their investment for the weekend, and therefore they want to come here, because right now they're struggling making that decision because they're not selling enough product. So we need to really focus on making it worthwhile for them. In addition, our airport portion, the balloon portion, is going to be a standalone event. It's suffering a bit because we can't get enough volunteers out there because they're being pulled downtown because that part's growing. And we're going to be able to enhance that. We're going to be able to add activities throughout the day. People come out there at 1 o'clock and they get frustrated because there's not more to do. Well, we don't have time to plan more. We don't have the resources to plan more right now because we're focused. We have to split our focus from downtown to the airport. So if we have a standalone airport event that we can focus on for that weekend, which will stay the same weekend, the balloon part will, we can make every single component great and not just okay, because right now we're just kind of getting through it. And then so we'll create 4 events out of this. The 1800 Craft Fair and the Rail Splitter Festival, they're in talks to combine and do an event in the fall together, because they really make sense to be together. It's similar markets, it's similar activities. The Rail Splitter Festival didn't happen last year. They're going to do it this year, but they're struggling and reinventing themselves too. So pairing them together and utilizing the same volunteer base and resources. And the Tourism Bureau has committed funds to help promote all the events. So we're very excited about this. We know our community is very nervous about it. We know people have very strong feelings about it. There are a lot of smart people around the table that helped us plan this and make it happen, and we're very confident that not only will we have a great event in August, but we're going to have 3 more great events throughout the year where people will feel like, oh, hey, what's going on in Lincoln this month? Because we want to get to every month, and throughout the year we have something for people to come to. So
throughout the year or the season?
I think eventually throughout the year.
648-5510. Somebody might have a comment or two or a question. Weigh in on this elephant in the room here. As you suggest, Andy, it seems to be a rather passionate subject. If you're interested in it at all, others couldn't care less. But those that do have an interest seem to be rather vocal in their pros or cons opinions about that. So somebody might want to weigh in on that subject. It isn't anything, I presume, this is a presumptuous statement, that this was not done just in a matter of a couple of days and a couple of phone calls and committee meetings. You sat at the table and hashed this out and worked on the pros and cons and tried to be very fair and equitable.
It was a long process, and when this was first brought to me a couple of years ago, I was not in favor of it. But it took me going through and watching, the other side of this, and I know this isn't the most important to our community, but the other reason the chamber does is it helps support our operations, and so we don't have to increase our membership dues. We don't have to, like all of our event fees and everything has stayed the same since I've been here. This event helps us do that. Well, for the first time in 6 years, last year we didn't make budget, and we're slated to not make budget again this year. We didn't make more than we did the year before because our resources are so stretched. And what that means is our sponsors choose who they want to sponsor. So barbecue's doing really well, which is great. But we're losing sponsorships in other areas because they're choosing to go to barbecue, or, I mean, that's just an example. Some people are choosing to go to the Art of Wine or choosing to do the art fair. So it's not that we're bringing in new sponsors, they're just kind of switching. Mm-hmm. So this way, and volunteers too. I constantly hear, I'd love to volunteer downtown, but we sponsor a balloon and I'm out at the airport all weekend, or vice versa. So our volunteers now have the opportunity to give their time in each area that they want to without having to, kill themselves all weekend for giving up, 12 hours a day for 3 days, or, they can do it, they can volunteer for each component they want. And sponsors can choose, if they want to, they can choose to sponsor each component because it's not all on the same weekend.
Mm-hmm.
These things, unfortunately, have kind of a way of running their course, so to speak. And this year we're down a little bit with the artists who are coming to town. I think that's concomitant with notwithstanding whatever the big folks out at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue say, things aren't the greatest in this country. Mm-mm. And people are watching how they spend their money.
They are watching.
And that is, that's a matter of how I want to spend my buck, because I don't get as many bucks go through my pocket as I used to. So I guess really it gets right down, as always, inevitably, the buck.
Bottom line.
And so that's the bottom line situation. So perhaps you folks that are working so hard on trying to give us an option on it may have hit upon an idea that kind of spreads the load out, so to speak.
It does. It spreads the load out, and we are looking for nonprofits that need fundraisers to help organize some of these components and then they can help sustain their organization too. So, for example, and don't hold me to this, but if the art association that has formed in Lincoln, if they decide they want the art fair as a fundraiser for them and they want to take on the organization of it, they are able to do that now. And we'd happily probably I need to check with our board, but we'd happily allow them to do that and use that as a fundraiser for them. And we're able to do that now, which is when it's all lumped together like this. We weren't able to do it because it was so tied to our budget and everything that we did. So splitting it up would help allow other nonprofits the opportunity to come in and fundraise.
Just for the sake of our admitting that there are three sides to everything, your side, my side, and the truth, what was the argument on the part of those who said, I don't know, we maybe shouldn't split it up? What was their major point?
Honestly, I didn't get a major point other than that it will ruin the festival. I think those that have expressed concerns to me via Facebook or other things, and I'll be honest, not always very nicely and sometimes quite cruel, have said that we're just going to ruin it. But those are folks that I don't know, meaning they've never helped organize it, they've never been a key volunteer or even a volunteer that did any more than maybe one shift.
They're kind of like uninvolved experts.
Right, and it would be very, I think, yes, it would be unfair of me to expect them to understand this because they don't see our side of it. So, this is kind of, last year we turned 100 years old, the Chamber did, and I was digging through newspaper clipping after newspaper clipping, and I came across a lot of articles and I wasn't here then, but it was talking about moving the balloon part of the festival from the fairgrounds to the airport, and that how it would kill it because nobody would ever drive way out to the airport, and it was scathing. Well, in 6 years, we've tripled revenue and attendance, and so not only did it help it grow, those folk, my predecessor Bobby Abbott and Pat Doolin and all of those folks that were involved in making that decision, I understand what they went through then, and it was a hard decision to make, but they did it and they saved the festival. that part of the festival because they made that decision. So I expect it'll be bumpy, but once we do it, people are going to see it, and it's going to not be a big deal. Give us a couple years.
We do have the perennial war cry. Why do we do it this way? Because we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Well, our guest this morning has been Andi Hake, who shared with us some of the problems of by the way, Andi, you're doing a nice job in your office out there at the Chamber.
Thank you.
Greater Lincoln Area Chamber of Commerce, as opposed to the Lincoln Chamber.
Well, technically the name, and it's changed 4 times in its 100 years. It's the Lincoln-Logan County Chamber of County.
Well, you ought to try and look it up in the phone book. Because it changes its name.
Well,
Yes.
we appreciate your work. And I want to speak for Andi right now and in expressing appreciation to all of the volunteers who are already committed for this project.
Absolutely.
These things can't be done without people putting their shoulder to the wheel. So we appreciate your business, your presence here today. Today's closing comment is somewhat facetious, and it has to do with committees. And it said to get something done, a committee should be no more than 3 persons, and 2 of them should be absent. Thank you for Viewpoint.